On 26 September, India held the farewell ceremony for the legendary MiG-21 fighter jet. During the event, the MiG-21 was flown for the last time, and it was officially announced that this would be its final landing. As I have mentioned many times in my videos, the MiG-21 was the world's first supersonic fighter jet, and it carried the R-3S Atoll air-to-air missile, which was considered the best missile of its time. India first purchased the MiG-21 from the Soviet Union in 1963, and the aircraft impressed the Indian Air Force so much that India began to manufacture it domestically under license. In total, India acquired almost 800 MiG-21s. However, the aircraft failed to meet India's long-term operational demands. Out of these 800 aircraft, around 400 were lost in crashes, resulting in the deaths of nearly 200 pilots, not including civilian casualties caused during accidents. Because of this, the jet became infamous in India as the flying coffin. Since India had acquired the MiG-21 in such large numbers, it could not retire it quickly. Instead, the IAF planned to modernize it, resulting in upgrades like the MiG-21 Bison. But modernization had limits. After all, there's only so much you can do with an old frame and an old engine, especially when hundreds had already been lost in accidents. Meanwhile, the Indian Air Force has long maintained that it needs 42 squadrons to meet its operational requirements. Currently, it has only 31 squadrons, and with the retirement of the MiG-21, the number will drop further to 29 squadrons, a frightening prospect for the IAF. Now that the MiG-21 has been officially retired, India has decided to induct 2 new fighter aircraft. The first is the Tejas fighter jet, for which a deal has already been signed. The IAF will acquire 97 Tejas aircraft for $7 billion. The Tejas is manufactured domestically by HAL, but even this project has faced delays due to disruptions in the supply of US-made engines. The second plan under consideration is the acquisition of Russia's 5th-generation Su-57 fighter jet. India media outlets have widely reported that the Defense Ministry is evaluating a plan to procure 2 squadrons worth of Su-57 5th-generation fighters off the shelf from Russia, and signing a deal for up to 5 further squadrons that will be produced locally under license, likely at Hindustan Aeronautic Limited's facility in Nashik. With each Indian Air Force fighter squadron deploying approximately 20 fighters, this would provide a fleet of approximately 140 next-generation combat jets and revolutionize the capabilities of the service's combat fleet. Indian have analysts highlighted the major shortcomings in the country's fighter fleet, and particularly with the performance of its new Rafale fighters, which were exposed when Operation Sindoor was launched against Pakistan in early May. Although talks to procure and license produce the Su-57 had reportedly intensified from February, the results of the operation have been expected to stimulate greater urgency. According to local media outlet, the Defense Ministry's increased interest in the Su-57 has been driven by recent operational realities, with the aircraft considered optimal to fill significant specific weapons and range gap in the fleet. The Su-57 not only has a much longer range than other fighters deployed in the region and than any fighter type in the Western world, but its air-to-air and cruise missiles can facilitate attacks much deeper into enemy territory. The fighter's stealth and advanced electronic warfare capabilities are also expected to provide a much greater degree of survivability, potentially allowing for penetration strikes deep into Pakistani airspace. The Su-57 has already been combat tested in air defense suppression operations and other operations in heavily defended enemy airspace, while having been used far more than any other fighter of its generation for engagements with enemy fighters. The fighter was in early August reported to have for the first time integrated a hypersonic air-to-surface missile for operational use, which could be of particular interest to the Indian Air Force. An order for 2 Su-57 squadrons produced in Russia, followed by a further 5 produced locally, would closely mirror the procurement of Su-30 MKI fighters, which similarly saw an initial agreement reached for 140 fighters, of which approximately 50 were built in Russia before license production could commence. Delays to planned subsequent programs, the fighter's high performance, and the significant benefits to local industry of sustaining localized production led Su-30 MKI orders to expand to over 270 fighters. There remains a significant possibility that should a license production deal for the Su-57 be signed, the Indian Air Force will similarly continue procurements far beyond the initially planned 140 fighters. This would allow for significant incremental modernization of the fighter and for growing indigenization of production. Although the Indian defense sector is currently developing a fifth-generation fighter under the Advanced Multi-Role Combat Aircraft Program, this is not expected to enter service before the late 2030s and likely only in the 2040s, providing a considerable window for Su-57 procurements. The country's lack of experience with fighter development has also raised questions regarding whether its fighter will be able to operate in a comparable level to a modernized Su-57 variant. Russia has also been making every possible offer to India regarding the Su-57 because Moscow is very desperate to secure exports for this fighter jet. Due to the Ukraine war, Russia has been hit with sanctions, and the supply of cutting-edge components has been blocked, leaving Russia's fighter jet industry heavily affected. Moreover, apart from Algeria, Russia has not been able to find any other customer for the Su-57. For this reason, Russia has offered India the option of manufacturing the Su-57 domestically. The logic behind this is that while Russia cannot access cutting-edge parts such as semiconductor chips due to sanctions, India can. If India manufactures the Su-57, the production line will speed up, and Russia will also be able to acquire Su-57s for its own needs through this route. That's all for today's update. Please subscribe and like this video.